Hi, I'm Haley with Neuhaus Education Center, and we're going to discuss reading practices in an accurate and automatic reading lesson. First, let's talk about where reading practices fall in our reading routine. Here you have your AAR reading routine. Hopefully you have something similar posted in your classroom, and you'll notice that the third component of our reading routine is reading practices. You'll do reading practices every single day. This is really, like I said, the heart and soul of your lesson, and it's going to take 10 to 15 minutes of your lesson. The purpose of reading practices in AAR is for students to practice reading accurately and automatically. AAR, accurate and automatic reading. So accurate means that they're reading things correctly, and automatic means they're reading it with fluency. They're not having to stop and decode every single time they read. When you're thinking about planning for your reading practices, remember, a reading practice happens every single day. You might not do a new concept every day, but you will do a reading practice every day. So let's look in our manual, and here I'm going to show you reading concept 45, which is X is pronounced X. So here, you're going through the new concept introduction, and then after the new concept introduction, you'll have information on practice. Here you can see on reading concept 45 that there are two practices associated with this concept. Practice 45, which is word lists. That's what we're going to be focusing on today, word lists. And also practice 45A, which is sentences, and we'll explore that in a different video. So going back to reading practice 45, I'll need to look in my manual in order to plan that, and then I'll have to have a copy of the reading practice page for every student. Now the way I make copies is really up to me in my managing style in my classroom. Maybe you make them for the week, maybe you make them for the whole mastery check, it's up to you, but every kid does need a copy of this, and they'll need to read with a pencil in their hand. When I'm thinking about how I'm going to plan for my reading practice, I need to keep three things in mind. An AAR reading practice, whether it's a word list, sentences, or even a story, we're going to have three focuses. The first time we read is going to be all about accuracy. Can students read the words correctly? The second time we read is going to be about domains of language. This is when the teacher gets to ask all kinds of questions about the words on the page to help students deepen their knowledge about words. The third read is going to be all about automaticity, fluency. Can students get lots of practice to read those words? Sometimes they'll be reading the words out loud, sometimes they'll be reading them silently in their head, but the goal is that students read their words at least 9 times over the course of a reading practice. And how are we going to do that? Well, let's look at our reading practice again. If I'm a teacher and I'm taking students through this routine, and of course you need to start slowly at the beginning, but as students get used to these expectations and routines, it will go quicker. So the first time is I want students to read the words accurately. So I'm going to need to focus on syllable types and vowel sounds. So for example, for line 1, I might say, think about what syllable type they are. They're closed syllables because it's one or more consonants following one vowel. So what is the vowel type? Oh, it's a short vowel because closed syllables have short vowels. Okay, prepare silently in your head and then have the students read. And I do that for all of the words so they can read the words accurately. The second read is really very fun for a teacher because you're asking interesting questions of your children. This is where you're asking questions about domains of language, sounds, morphology, meaning, semantics, all sorts of things. So for example, on row 2, maybe I ask a question like, what is a word of a tool? And students might circle axe. Or maybe on row 4, I'd say underline 2 words that rhyme, and students could underline vex and flex. You get to go through that for as many words as you have time for. Then on the third read, we want to really focus on fluency. This is automaticity. So I'm just going to get students to read these words a lot of times in a lot of different ways. I can read by rows, which go across, or columns that go up and down. I can group students to say girls read this column, boys read this column, or different table groups, colors of shirt, anything creative, but we want students reading, reading, reading. Again, this will take just 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, and you're going to do it every day. Really, the pacing of AAR is dependent on the reading practices because there's a reading practice every day. If you have any questions, you can always refer to your AAR manual.